Studies show a link between firefighting and certain cancer-related illnesses. We'll talk about what's being done to protect our men and women in the field.
2 White Bear Lake police officers made the trip of a lifetime. We'll bring you their story. Plus, we talk with a young woman about the challenges of living with multiple sclerosis and her connection to the White Bear Lake Fire Department.
I'm Ron Hawkins.
And I'm Tracy Menarchuk. Spring is here and we're out at the Mark Sather Trail in White Bear Lake enjoying some green.
Most definitely. People will be taking advantage of the trail now that it's warming up. We certainly are. Hi, Tracy.
Hi, Ron.
How's your spring been going?
It's good. Anything new with you?
No, but I'm totally looking forward to summer. I don't know about you.
Yes, I've got cabin fever.
Yeah.
And we went to Florida for my vacation, so it was very warm, and the flowers and the trees.
Palm trees.
And then I came back here and there was snow in the car.
Nasty.
Darn it.
2 White Bear Lake police officers traveled to Washington, D.C. to provide security during President Trump's inauguration.
They shared some of the highlights with us and how the trip served as a bonding experience. Here's their story.
I just thought it was super exciting, so.
It was super exciting.
In a post-election world leaving people divided, 2 men joined together in the interest of national security. One from New Zealand, one from Ham Lake,
619 copy.
and both White Bear Lake police officers. Though they arrived at their law enforcement careers in different ways, they have the same passion for law, order, and adventure.
There was like 250 guns on the plane.
It was so surreal, you know. It was like, wow.
Officers Hook and Tuma are members of the Ramsey County Mobile Field Force.
The techniques that are used.
As members, they were asked to provide security for the presidential inauguration in Washington, D.C., and they readily accepted. They were sworn in as U.S. Marshals and were stationed along the parade route, amazed by the massive police presence.
So it was pretty phenomenal to see so many different agencies from around the country, see all these different uniforms, state troopers, local police officers, marshals, rangers, just a whole variety, and then all those different uniforms. You know, you've got guys coming in wearing, you know, cowboy hats,
yeah.
you know.
As an immigrant, Officer Hook says he was moved by the pomp and circumstance of it all.
How many others of them are immigrants that have, you know, really, I guess from my mind, had the ultimate American dream to come to the United States, become a citizen, and then get a job in law enforcement protecting the community that has welcomed you. It's kind of a cool experience. So.
And though they're part of the mobile force and White Bear Lake police officers, they work opposing schedules. And this trip provided them with what they don't have in their daily lives: time to bond.
So he works a different shift than I do, and so we normally never see each other.
Right.
And so to move from that to staying in the same hotel room to doing everything.
Yeah.
So obviously, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, you guys even had to share a...
We shared a room.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah.
Yeah, we did have a blast.
Officers Hook and Tuma recently received a thank you from Washington, D.C.'s police chief, and they say they'd volunteer again if given the opportunity. We're going to take a break, but first, Tracy, what are you doing?
We're live. We're live. Facebook Live.
Facebook Live. Okay,
Yep.
We're taping.
Yep,
You know
we're
that.
taping at Lions Park today, right now. See the sign?
Whatever. Just let me know. I mean, are you ready to get going here?
Yeah,
again?
I'm ready to go. You ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Your line.
Oh, my line, okay. We've entered spring, and with it the potential for dangerous weather. Here's some safety advice.
At long last, we can welcome spring, but with the change of season comes a change in weather, and we should get ready for potentially severe storms. I'm Sergeant John Vetty with your springtime game plan. Although we should plan for severe weather year-round, April 11th through the 15th is Severe Weather Awareness Week. On average, there are 40 tornadoes in a year in Minnesota. There were 104 in 2010. And in addition to tornado safety, people should be thinking about floods, extreme heat, lightning, and hail. This is the time for your household to get an emergency plan in place. Things to consider include where to go in dangerous weather conditions, making a plan with neighbors, and inviting local emergency responders to lead discussions. White Bear Lake has an emergency response team called CERT that we can use as a resource. You should also prepare an emergency kit including medicines, food and water, batteries, and a NOAA weather radio. The state's emergency preparedness site has all the information you need. Being prepared may be the key to survival. It's something to think about. Have a happy spring, everyone. I'll see you next time.
Welcome back. Studies show that firefighters are dying of cancer-related deaths at a far greater rate than the general public.
The toxic chemicals firefighters are exposed to have increased over time, and we're going to talk about what's being done to protect them. White Bear Lake Assistant Fire Chief Joel Hewitt and St. Paul Fire Chief Tim Butler join us. Gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
So let's jump right in and talk about what we're finding are some pretty alarming rates. Can we start off with just maybe some personal experiences?
Well, in my 41 years of being fire chief, I've been involved with 4 different departments, and unfortunately I've personally experienced firefighters under my command going through some cancer. I think I've had about 8 or 9 of them go through cancer. The majority of them survived the battle, but unfortunately we lost a few to it, and that's very concerning.
Yeah, I think in St. Paul, over the last 5 or 6 years, I know of 20 of our firefighters that have come down with the diagnosis of cancer, either active firefighters or folks that have recently retired.
That's alarming. Now, are they similar types of cancer, or are they completely different? Are we talking lung cancer, or what type of cancer are you seeing from the fire department?
The people that I've experienced cancer with it's been testicle cancer, kidney cancer, brain cancer. So it's just a plethora of different parts of the body that they've had to fight with. So yeah, I don't think there's just any one thing. How about you?
Ours have been all over the spectrum, from bladder cancer, testicular cancer, stomach cancer, colon cancer. Things that you hear about a lot in normal populations, and then some that seem to be rather unique to firefighters. Some of the studies have shown 2 and 3 times the incidence of cancer in firefighters than you would see in the general population.
In Boston, there's a study that recently came out that 62% of the firefighters are going to get cancer in their lifetime.
Wow.
And that's scary.
As we've progressed, we've made buildings, safer for people. We don't have the structure fires that we used to maybe, say, 50 years ago. But with that, there have been some changes. And is that what you're looking at as far as those changes in how buildings are made and how maybe materials, fabric, furniture, those sorts of things?
Yeah, I think as an industry, the fire service has looked at, we do things that a lot the same way that we've done for decades. The thing that have changed are the buildings that we're going into and the furnishings inside those buildings. In the older days, in the 60s and 70s and before that, we were fighting fires in structures pretty much made out of wood and cotton and wool and normal natural materials. Now everything that we're surrounded by, from the carpet backing to the furniture pads to the draperies and wall coverings, are synthetic materials, and when they burn, they produce a lot of carcinogenic petroleum-based, quite frankly, soot and byproducts from combustion.
Now, we've had Joel on the show before where we've had you gear up with everything on to protect you. How much protection does that give you, and does it not give you enough? Is there anything more that you can do in that respect?
We're finding where we're really susceptible is with our hoods. Our gear has vapor barriers and things like that that can kind of keep out some of the carcinogens and the petroleum-based stuff, but our hoods have no vapor barrier, and so that the fabric actually absorbs things. And you'll see when we're done with, and we take off our coats and stuff, a lot of firefighters will just pull their hood back and keep their hood around their neck, and that's where we're seeing an escalation of cancer. They're doing some research and coming up with new hoods and things like that. So to kind of offset that, there was a program called Wash Your Hood Sunday, where you would wash your hood on Sunday. Now what we're doing here in White Bear, and I think they're doing the same thing in St. Paul, is when we're done with the fire, we just throw our hoods in a basket, and then we take a new one and use it, and then we'll wash the other ones at some point. But there's not so much the buildings, it's how we decontaminate ourselves after the call.
Yeah, I think in previous times, you know, up until the last couple of years, we've done what Joel has said. We take our gear off, we hang it in the locker or hang it in the gear storage area, and we wait till the next fire, and we put the same stuff back on that's recontaminating our body again. And over the last couple of years, as we become more aware of what's really causing some of these cancers, or what we suspect is really causing some of these cancers, is the carcinogens that we experience in the fire, we still have on our gear. So cleaning the hoods, wiping yourself down with baby wipes or other sanitary wipes, getting some of that debris and contaminants off at the scene, and then when you come back, switching into a cleaner set of turnout gear, while you put that protective clothing in a special washer and dryer that can take some of the contaminants out, so that you always are walking around, if you will, in a clean pair, or as clean as possible.
Don't they say also, Chief, is that if your body temperature rises 5 degrees, your absorption rate around being a medic is 400% more?
I'm not sure of the specific numbers, but I've heard that too. It's just an incredible amount of absorption, just with that little thing increasing in heart rate. And of course, you guys know that our heart rates increase when we're
and you're active and you're working out is what you're doing. You know, you're sweating, you're getting hot, just not from the fire, but also from your activity and all that gear you've got on.
So the firefighters are doing a lot of things that are changing. Some of the things that we talked about when we get to the stage where we've put out the fire, we're doing what we call salvage and overhaul. I think we're much more cognizant of keeping our masks on, but that's a bit of a hurdle because you have to do things and it's difficult to do those things. Is there anything else that you can think of that the firefighters are doing different to prevent that? And then also, what kind of support are you thinking that needs to happen here?
I think from the department's perspective, making sure that everybody has 2 sets of turnout gear, so one can be washed and dried while you're still using another clean pair. Making sure there's decontamination equipment on each rig so that you can do some of that gross decontamination on the scene, and then making sure there's some heavy-duty washers and dryers back at the station to make sure that the crews have a chance to clean this material. It's not just a normal household washer and dryer. They're specially built for this purpose. Making sure that every rig and every person on the rig is equipped with an air pack. When I became fire chief in St. Paul 10 years ago, not everybody had an air pack. Not everybody had 2 sets of turnout gear or improved hood design like the chief was talking about. Those are some of the things the department and the city can provide for our firefighters.
And we're running out of time, but I quickly want to mention in 2015 there was talk about a ban for flame retardant material. Where is that at? Can you talk about that maybe?
I think Minnesota was one of the first states that adopted legislation to ban flame retardant material, or things that were being made with flame retardant material from being sold or manufactured in the state, and I know there's other states that are looking to adopt it.
Yeah, the flame retardant, the chemicals that actually make the materials flame retardant are carcinogenic when they are exposed to high heat and high temperature. And so the firefighters are going into a place where the citizens were protected because of the flame retardant, but now we have to go in and into the aftermath of that flame retardant material combusting. Minnesota passed a legislation that prohibited a number of those chemicals, but not the all-inclusive list that we, the firefighters, were pushing to have adopted. So I think it was stage one in a multi-phase approach to try to expand that list until we can make sure that the flame retardant materials that we're going to go be faced with are prohibited from use in Minnesota.
And that's great that they've looked at that and recognized that and are taking some steps to protect you guys.
Important stuff. Well, I
Yep.
appreciate you guys
Thank
being
you
on
so
the
much.
show. Thank you
Thank
very
you for
much.
having
Thanks for
us.
your work.
Appreciate Thank you.
The MS-150 team is gearing up for its annual ride to help find a cure for multiple sclerosis.
The team dedicates the ride to members of our community living with MS. And we recently sat down with a young woman who was diagnosed at a young age.
Her father is retired White Bear Lake firefighter assistant chief Mike Mackus. Producer Mary Klein and photographer Nick Anderson spent some time with Brittany Mackus.
Even though I might look like I'm doing okay, you know, I might be having a really rough day, you know, physically, and I just don't show it as much as some others. We have these cats, so.
Based on first appearances, 29-year-old Brittany Mackus looks like a typical young woman.
I do this all the time to you, so you're gonna have to deal with it.
But appearances can be deceiving.
Today, I'm not really in pain.
Brittany experienced tingling and numbness in her hands during her senior year in high school. It progressed to her legs, and doctors weren't sure if it was related to a pre-existing condition or if it was something more. She was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis 2 years later at just 21.
Even though it wasn't a total shock because we had been talking about it for so long, still getting the actual news, you know, was still, you know, just something that no one wants to hear, especially when you're so young.
More than 2.3 million people are affected by MS worldwide, and most are diagnosed between the ages of 20 and 50. MS is more common in women than men, and there is no cure.
It's like, you know, you're walking through wet cement and you've just been up all night and, you know, trying to study for something that you maybe learned about once a long time ago, but you got brain fog because you're tired and you don't really remember anything. And you also got maybe the flu or you're coming down with something. So it's just mentally and physically just completely wiped out.
Fatigue is Brittany's most challenging symptom. She must balance adequate rest with her daily routine.
Then I can just fall asleep and not have to.
She works in the diabetes clinic at Children's Hospital doing research and enjoys a quiet life with her boyfriend and her 2 cats.
She's doing this in the sink upstairs and I have to like shove her out of the way.
Spending her free time reading, watching movies, and playing video games. She says her family has been a great source of support, her dad raising tens of thousands of dollars to help find a cure for the disease. For her part, Brittany says she takes every opportunity to share her story.
It just always makes me wonder then what the future holds because, you know, I don't know what symptoms are going to start creeping in or if anything's going to get worse.
What an inspiring young lady. Remember, if you'd like to join the team or make a donation, check out the MS-150 Facebook page. Now, that's right around the corner. Are you ready?
Yeah, well, it's not it's right around the corner, but I know that I've got some time to still prepare. But, you know, I tell you, there is a lot of focus in getting donations and trying to get people to join the team and some other events that we have going on related to that. But I mean, that story that we just saw was just, I think, just it really kind of brings it home as to why we're doing it. It's just such an important cause and something that's important to me, I guess, and
it affects
obviously
everybody within the city and the community too.
Right, most definitely. We're going to take a quick break, but coming up, we'll bring you the story of a woman trading a career in law enforcement for the sweeter side of life.
Who's your favorite crew member?
Me, 'cause I'm nervous.
Well, most definitely Mary, Nicholas, Brian,
Jeffrey.
William, Jeffrey, yeah.
Everybody's got their own little jet though, and they all have their own little interest and stuff. So it's a good
And
team.
a fun group.
Yes, very
Big
fun.
time fun
Yeah.
group. Yeah.
Welcome back. Former White Bear Lake Mayor Paul Auger is recovering from a rare disease that left him paralyzed.
Auger was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome in January. He's been a fixture in the community for decades, and many people are concerned for him and his family. Randy Fulton with Front Runner is one of those people, and he's taking action.
Thank you for being here.
You bet. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, so let's just start off with talking a little bit about Front Runner, your business.
Okay. It's been around for about 25 years. We actually started right over here in the waterfront, renting bikes, canoes, kayaks, and sailboards, and didn't make any money at that. So it kind of evolved into events and screen printing. And so we've been doing screen printing and events. For a number of years, we did a ton of events, about 50 events a year. And we parted back to about 9 great events.
So when you say events, what type of
running
events
races and
are-
triathlons,
All
or
right.
duathlons, run bike runs type stuff. So most of them are running races. Kind of gotten into the trail runs lately, but we still do some great triathlons and duathlons in the Midwest here.
And a lot of these 5Ks and other trail races are right here in the community.
Bottom right
Like,
here. Actually, we do Jump To It is coming up in May. We used to do a number of races right here in White Bear, but only a few now. Some in Stillwater, New Brighton. We do a big triathlon in New Brighton. Pine Tree Apple Orchard is the site of one of our largest races.
And I've participated in a lot of them, and I love them. So I
you. Thank
highly
you, Rob.
recommend
Thanks.
check out.
And I think the police department has had some shirts screen printed.
And you've been a
many
great support
times.
of my events for many years.
Yep, and we usually, it seems like we have them almost every Saturday.
Yep.
So let's talk about the Paul Auger 5K. How did that kind of come about?
Well, Paul has always been helpful to my family. He's fixed our cars for years.
And he's fixed a lot of
He
people's
fixed a
cars.
lot of people's
Yes.
cars. We did a kind of a hand raise last week of how many people were there because Paul fixed their cars, and there were a lot of people that raised their hands. And, But he's also been just a big supporter of the community. You know, I live in White Bear, and I love White Bear. So when he was mayor, he did great things, and Paul's just a great guy. So after he got sick, it just kind of fundraising. 5Ks are easy to do, you know, especially here in White Bear when it's just up West Park and back, and it was just an easy way to raise some money to go to his family to help out with stuff.
And so you must have, everything you raised went to him? There was
Everything,
no
yep,
overhead?
everything. We didn't give any shirts away. So I think when it all clears and everything, it'll probably be about $2,500.
Oh, that's
So,
super nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, so do you? I read the Caring Bridge site, and I've read some of the GoFundMe is a good place to just kind of get an overview as to what happened, and it's just an incredible story. I mean, I've never heard anything like it, and I'm a paramedic, and my gosh, I've never come across that situation
We knew
before.
a priest down in Maplewood who had the same thing, Michael Jonkus, who actually at the time was teaching at St. Thomas. So we were familiar with it and knew what it did. But it's just a disease that affects the immune system and attacks every nerve you have in your body and just basically paralyzes you. So, and his wife said he's getting better. He's got a little movement in his shoulders, and the trachea tube is out, so he's kind of breathing on his own now. And so the words are kind of coming back a little bit, but he's got a long road ahead of him.
Yeah, very
and
scary.
Just the steps to improvement are so slow, and setbacks. It sounds like there's been some
a lot of infections. They said just a lot of little things that you don't think about that have kind of gotten in the way.
And what a great thing for you to do, to donate all that money to help them out. And like you said, they have a GoFundMe page.
Yeah.
You have other events coming up?
You know, we have 9 events. Our next event is we do a trail run over in Wisconsin. And then Jump to It is May 6th, and then runs throughout the summer. And like I said, we have 9 of them now that we do.
So Jump to, is that the one that had the frog on?
It's always a frog. Yeah.
Okay.
It's been around for 35 years, but it's always been a frog. So.
Well, thank you, Randy. I appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you guys running around the lake this
Okay,
summer.
thanks.
After 13 years as a police officer, Melinda Harches made a drastic and delicious shift in careers.
Producer Joel Cullen and photographer Brian Henshin have all the sweet details.
Baking's been a lifelong thing for us. I remember baking in high school. It actually probably started with candy making with my grandma. When my kids were born, I started making specialty cakes for their birthdays, and it just really grew from there. Every year we've been incrementally growing. So the first year we opened the food truck, and that remains open in the summer months. The next year we opened our retail place here. This year, just in these last few weeks, we've been in the process of opening a production kitchen. That's also in White Bear Lake up at Highway 61 in Conroe J. Every day we do small batch baking. We do about 2 to 3 dozen of any particular type of cupcakes. We have about 8 to 12 varieties on the counter every day. Last Friday of the month we do piece cupcakes. They're free of charge. So if you just swing in, you'll be able to pick out a piece cupcake. It's generally just a standard vanilla cupcake. It has a peace symbol on top. It's pre-packaged, and the idea is that when you pick it up that you would give it to somebody else that you normally wouldn't talk to. It's just designed to generate conversation and kindness. I cannot believe how incredibly supportive the community has been. Our sign on the outside says happiness starts here. It's really because when people come in to buy cupcakes, they are thrilled. They're happy, they're smiling. It's a little surprise. They walk through the door kind of inquiring, like, what's on the counter today? And that's really great.
So, have you tried any cupcakes?
Yes, we have. Everybody at the police department, we've had cupcakes. Lots of cupcakes.
Awesome.
They're delicious.
And who would you give your piece cupcake to?
Maybe you.
Yes, all right, you heard it here, right?
I think, but I'd have to give it to somebody in the community, I think. Not somebody I know. I don't know if there's rules, but
all right, well,
written down.
Let's look into it.
Well, that wraps up this edition of Lake Area Beat. Thanks for watching. I'm Tracy Menarchek.
And I'm Ron Hawkins. We'll see you next time.
You got a coffee cup, all you need is a donut now.
I know.
All right, completed. A little frosting on your face and on your uniform.
Head over to Grandma's.
There have been many embarrassing moments, and sorry about my cat there.
Are you familiar with April, the giraffe?
You see the woman that was obsessed with giraffes, and she was in the hospital, and she had a giraffe mask on her head.
That was because of this
That's
thing.
because,
going on.
yeah, it was. Yeah, she started watching that. She became obsessed with it. It's pretty funny.
That, not everyone has gotten to do, and so I have, appreciated having that, and
One of my friends that works in the city called me up one time and said,
Yeah.
I saw you on TV.